Unless the self is known as it is, what do you truly know? If the self is realized as it is, who is there to know? And what else is there to be known? The Maharshi has always given the instruction that first and foremost, one should know oneself. If without knowing ourselves, we seek to know anything else, we see just a mirror image of our own self-definition. For knowledge of reality, existence as it is, you have to know yourself. If you do know yourself, then, as was mentioned a few moments ago, there is nothing else to be known. Nor does there remain a separate knower of other things or of the self itself. Of course, if we misidentify and assume the body, the mind, the ego or false sense of individuality to be the self, what is being indicated will seem elusive or incomprehensible. Are you the body? Can you be the mind? In the attempt to know yourself, you must stand free of any tendency to take an object to be what you are. Self-knowledge is, after all, non-objective knowledge. If you do not regard anything perceived or conceived as yourself, what remains? What is it that is truly non-objective? Being non-objective, it must be formless, and being formless, it must be absolutely one, without a second. What is formless cannot have parts. It must be homogeneous. What is that in yourself? In the attempt to know the self, which is Brahman, the vast absolute, the objective outlook must be abandoned. How could you ever know yourself as an object? We can be quite sure that whatever we think we know about ourselves is precisely not ourselves. Only the non-objective, that which can never be removed from our own being, can be the self. It cannot be two, that is, yourself, cannot be divided into two parts, the part to be known and the part that wants to know, or that knows, or that does not know. An Upanishad says, I know, yet I do not know. What is meant? Not as something perceived, not as something conceived. Not as anything pertaining to the false ego or individuality. Here, knowledge is synonymous with being. Atmajnana, self-knowledge, is Atmanishta, abidance as the self. It is not an activity, it is knowledge that is liberation. And it is not a conception, or a notion in the mind, or a collection of ideas, or a perspective, or a viewpoint, or any other such thing. But what is being indicated is that in which being and knowing are identical. Always start with your own existence. Where you start is where you end. So do not so much attempt to know about this, know about the I. If the I is known, the division of I and this vanishes. What remains, what has always been the case, is of the nature of pure being, consciousness, bliss. Of it, Sri Bhagavan has said, it is just as it is. It is not a thing, but it is just as it is. It has no beginning, it has no end. Know your identity to be that which is unborn and imperishable. The unborn and the imperishable is the immutable, as well as the ineffable. To take yourself to be anything less, to take yourself to be anything other, is merely a product of imagination, the imagination we call ignorance or delusion. Put the question to yourself, inwardly. Not so much the words or the idea, but the introspection indicated by, who am I? It is not to be figured out. It is not lost. It is not obtained anew. It is just as it is. Throughout all states, yet it is stateless. Throughout all time, yet it is timeless. There is nowhere where it is not, yet it is spaceless. This is you. Abandon the illusion of existing as a body or as an ego entity by inquiring as to who you are. And what has just been indicated will be self-evident.